Yep. Okay, continue. Got it.
Cool.
All right.
All right, here we are with an virtual HMS.
All right.
Pretty awesome.
That's
Crazy.
Hey,
Well,
Mom.
Hey, Fem.
hey, Martha. I guess I volunteered to share first. I'm sorry I'm not there in person to talk to you, Martha, right now. But I guess I just wanted to start by sharing some of the memories I have. I talked to Taylor and even to some of my family about this already, but in my childhood, I felt like there was like a second parents based on how much time we spent together, and you were definitely like my second mom. From meeting Taylor in kindergarten and when his magician, what was it, Taylor? Your pants popped and like your pants wouldn't stay up when you were a magician. And, Mr.
Yeah,
Trifilio.
The elastic snapped. We were like 30 seconds of airtime, and like my pants exploded.
That's literally my first memory of Taylor. And in that memory, Martha ran backstage and was like sewing up the elastic to keep Taylor's pants up. And that was, I think, my first memory. I know I probably met you before that, but that's the first memory I have. And pretty much from that point forward, between me and Taylor becoming friends and staying, best friends throughout our entire lives, to Woody and Luke spending so much time together. I feel like if they weren't at our house, we were at your house. And it was always, I was talking with Luke and Taylor, and it was always a safe place to go. And I think that was something that was so important for all of us, especially when we were teenagers and, blowing shit up and smoking weed and drinking like eight shots of rum in like 30 seconds and throwing up 3 minutes later. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but not everybody's parents, not to throw anybody under the rug, Dad, but not everybody was so kind of supportive of us experimenting and learning. And I think it meant a lot to have a safe place to go. I can remember one of the things that was always interesting was, me and Dan and Luke are slightly competitive. And if violence was a scale of 1 to 10, I would put Taylor and Woody on like a 2, and me and Dan and Luke somewhere around a 9 in terms of sibling on sibling violence. So although your home was always safe, it was always interesting when we'd like end up beating the shit out of each other, and Taylor and Woody would be looking at us like, what the hell is going on? Each other this way. And me and Dan or me and Luke would just be like viciously hurting each other, and you'd come down and like
I need to interject.
What?
I need to interject because you're saying hurting each other, and I feel like I need to point out it was kind of a one-way thing.
True.
But continue.
All right.
Continue.
To be fair, this was not multi-directional violence. It was usually one-way violence towards Luke. But Martha, you'd come down, and it was usually in a basement, our basement or your basement. It'd be like, hey guys, what's going on? And it'd always be this approach of trying to like reason and rationalize. Well, could you do this another way? But always in this way where you were trying to kind of make us think for ourselves and make our own decisions. And it was a really cool model of parenting that I think was just this like way to kind of put things back on us and be open-minded. I have some amazing memories. I ended up working in the restaurant industry, not for very long, but both visiting you at work, at the restaurant you and Paul ran. It was, what was it, Shelburne Cafe? What was it called again?
Shelburne
Bakery.
And Bake Shop, yeah.
Bake shop.
Not the most imaginative name in the world, just very, very literal. But the restaurant and bake shop and it is in Shelburne.
Right. But I can remember both visiting you at work and just being kind of amazed that you guys were building this business from the ground up, that you guys did that, managed that, and all the headaches that came with that. And also provided so much kind of love and care for your kids, support in all of their after school, their roller skating adventures, their whatever we were wanting to do. You guys were trying to balance that with running a business. And that was always something impressive too, because that's nothing easy. And then growing up and hearing more about like the behind the scenes of all of the employees there, like, you know, using drugs behind the scenes, being like, oh shit, that felt like such a above the board place, and there's all kinds of sketchy stuff happening too. So something that we learned a lot more about working in that industry ourselves, you know. And then you know, I think I talked about this a little bit, but as we got older, whether we were like adventuring off at night to, you know, go for 4-hour walks or do whatever we were doing, we go over to your house. Luke mentioned this, Gelber, when we were texting the other day, how one day, I think it was like one of the first time we smoked weed, you woke up in the morning and were just like, well, guys, thanks for eating all the lasagna. I'm sorry. And all the Doritos, and all the Twizzlers, and all of the other chips, and the popcorn. And, you know, you were giving us a hard time. But in reality, I think we were probably, you know, pretty self-centered jerks in high school. And you always took that with a kind of a laugh and welcome and care. And I think even after leaving, you know, some of my fondest memories are swinging by the house, getting to talk with you in the kitchen counter, and sharing about life, sharing about the challenges, both in my own family and my love life. I think we pretty much talked about everything in your kitchen. Sometimes I'd come downstairs and Taylor would be like, what the fuck, dude? You're up there for like 3 hours. He's like, I was talking to your mom, lay off. Like, we're in the middle of a movie. And all of that was just it was like having a second home. And I know it's not an easy time for you, but and for your family, but just know that we love you. You had a huge impact on me and on my family as a whole. And I know it's pretty weird with my mom right now too, but one of the things that really stands out to me too is just how much, as things got harder and harder with my mom, how much you and Natalie really stuck by her for as long as you could, you know. And I know she's not in a position to share that or say that, but your friendship and what that meant for my mom for so many years of her life is also something I'm, you know, grateful for to you. And yeah, it's hard to kind of think what to say, but love you, Martha, and thank you for always being there and for putting up with so much bullshit from us, but also, you know, for sharing in laughs and love and, you know, producing some pretty fucking great children too.
Thanks. Can I just add something to that? You're talking about like beating the shit out of your siblings and all of their rambunctiousness, and I just remember like every time you came over to the house, something broke. Like every single time, it was like something was gonna break, and I was gonna have to tell my mom, like, yeah, Andrew was sledding down the stairs and he kicked off a light fixture or something, which never actually happened. But actually, years later, when we lived at the inn, you tried to sled down our stairs. But anyway, I just remember this one time, she was like always so tolerant of all that shit, and I just felt like someday, like, she won't be anymore, because it happens all the fucking time. And so I remember you came over once, and I was like, guys, listen. Every time you guys come over, something fucking breaks, and we've got to hold it together and just, like, please try not to break anything in my house. And everyone was like, okay. And like the very next thing that happened is we were playing ping pong, and Andrew tried to like overhead slam the ball and just shattered two big like fluorescent light bulbs that were hanging from the ceiling.
Shattered all over.
Everywhere. But just that, yeah, that level of rambunctiousness was always just sort of met with like good humored tolerance, I guess, or understanding. And yeah, it was a pretty safe space.
What was the when we moved into the house? You guys were doing like ping pong, like hitting ping pong balls at each other's like stomach and chest.
Oh, that game.
Ping pong.
I was talking about this. I think I was talking about it this weekend, right? You'd have to run around the ping pong table. We either do this at Taylor's place or down in our basement, and we probably did it at your house too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where you would play, but you'd be running around the table, and you'd have to get around to the other side of the table and hit the ping pong ball. And if you didn't, you had to stand at the end of the table and lift your shirt up over your head,
Yes.
and somebody got to hit the ping pong ball as hard as they could and try to hit you in the chest.
The
And
worst
the welt,
part about it,
Yeah.
the
the
welt
worst part
that
about it
left
wasn't getting
were
hit.
insane.
The worst part about it wasn't getting hit. It was the fear
Oh yeah.
that you might get hit, and you'd
that's-
like hear it whiz by your ear, and then someone else would take a shot, and it would connect.
You wouldn't get hit that often, but you're right, Woody. It was the fear. It was like, oh my God, I have to do this.
But it's also brutal because it's not like one person would get to shoot at you. It was just like lining up, like, all right,
Yeah.
all three of us are gonna try and hit you as hard as we can with this ball, and it would leave welts. It was
Yeah,
it was
I remember
a
Yeah.
good connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Mhm.
game. We should bring that one back, guys.
Yeah.
Well, then there were the races down the stairs at the Miller house.
Yeah.
Does everyone remember those?
Oh yeah, in the sleeping bags.
Yeah.
Then you slam the door at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
hard.
Mostly
Yeah.
for Luke, I think.
The one-way violence.
Luke's head
There it
was
is.
so big, it was just like bobbing up and down.
Couldn't help yourself, huh?
Yeah, sorry.
I remember the hedge jumping at the village house too.
Big
Oh, yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
head flying down the stairs. Had to shut the door.
But who was it? One of you guys though doing the hedge jumping at the village house, and and those hedges were so prickly, they were awful, and
Oh,
somebody
they
just
were-
went right into them.
Yeah.
Was it just one of
I
them?
feel like,
Now maybe it was all of them.
Yeah.
I think we all did, yeah.
yeah. I feel like I went through a phase that I'm like maybe just recently getting out of, where if someone was like, "You think you can jump over that?" I'm like, "Yeah, fucking watch me."
Dude, I had a phase
Yeah.
with that too. I did it when I
Yeah.
went to visit Andrew at Clark one time.
That was bad. That was bad.
This is such an unreasonable hedge to try and jump over, and I was like, I got this. I ran and I did it, and I remember I ended up like folded up like a lawn chair in the middle of this hedge, and Andrew's like, oh my God. And I remember
That was like a
the
pine
back-
tree you're in the middle of. It was so prickly.
Yeah.
And you were like
yeah.
in the middle of it. It was like a 10-foot hedge. And you were like 5 feet into it. You had to like crawl out of
Now my back was pretty scraped up coming out of that one because you guys were like trying to lift me in different directions, and I was just getting jabbed. Yeah, but the jumping over stuff thing. That's a really good point, Taylor. I'm
Yeah.
also just at the tail end, but I think it wasn't something I was really entirely aware of. I think I'm going to bring that back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Definitely.
idea.
Think about how much more interesting your day-to-day life would be if you were constantly trying to clear certain objects at random.
I'm just glad I found out about parkour after I broke my ankles too much to
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I remember, right? So one of the things that I was always kind of on the periphery because Andrew had Taylor and Luke had Woody, and I was always like the fifth wheel, right? But it was fun, and I always remember Woody and Taylor, you guys being so cool growing up,
Mhm.
like into such cool unique stuff. I remember like Taylor showing up with like different colored contacts and like dyed hair and being like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you ever thought of that as cool.
No, it was like you guys did stuff that was a little out there. But you were like, you like knew who you were and you were experimenting with different things. But like, I think that's a testament to your parents too. Like they let you guys express yourselves and find who you wanted to be and try different things and never, and that was always like encouraged. You guys were always coming up with cool new stuff. Like Taylor, you like introduced us to Third Eye Blind, and I will forever remember that self-titled Third Eye Blind album, which like to this day is one of my favorite albums ever. Start to finish,
perfect.
so damn good. And I remember you introducing us to that. Like you guys got really into the rollerblading thing for a while, and then all of a sudden we had rollerblades, and we were going to like Stowe and going down the half pipe and stuff like that on those like day trips that you could do through the rec center.
Yeah. Jesus.
And like, you know, always whenever we would do stuff and, you know, we'd be at your guys' house or over, you guys be over at our place, there was always something new and interesting going on. And so that always sticks with me, because that's a reflection of kind of how you were brought up and your mom and your dad, and encouraging you guys to find yourselves and explore different things. And I think that's a huge part of that I always remember about, you know, growing up with you guys around all the time.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
If I may tag on to that, I think that's like very much a reflection of my mom, in that I think walking her path is like that's the way. That's like the only way. You know, she's totally not a follower. She's always kind of created her own life and her own way, and yeah, it was always a little like unique and eccentric and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I definitely like, it's neat to hear you say that, because I don't think I didn't know that growing up, that was atypical, because it's just your reality, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I went through. Oh, sorry, Woody.
No. That was
Andrew's best man speech at my wedding was like taking all of my wedding guests through all of my different phases that I had growing up in great detail, which was largely embarrassing. But I feel like for a long time, I was like I went through like a Hawaiian shirt phase in like 6th grade, and like, dyed my hair and shit. And I remember like Mom would like take me out clothes shopping or something, and like I'd see something really weird, and I'd be like, "You think I can pull that off?" And she'd be like, "Oh yeah, totally." Like I always wish she'd used slightly more restraint sometimes, because I have phases I'm not entirely proud of, like the Hot Topic, like big caffeine pants with the straps.
I was gonna
and
say
stuff.
Hot Topic for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it was always just like, yeah, you can wear that. Like, why the fuck? Like, why wouldn't you be able to wear that? Like, put it on. It's cool. Like, whatever. And like, it was just like it created like such confidence in being a weirdo. It was great. And I appreciate it. Now, I mean, she took me to get my first tattoo the morning of her high school graduation, you know, which clearly has turned into like a little bit of a thing. So, you know, it's yeah. I just had to add that. But.
Yeah, and she always was just you know, her own person and just really unique. And I know that Beth Ann and Allison, I know that the two of you really looked up to her as far as like an adult who pushed those boundaries, and that it was like okay to do things that, you know, because she was always so young, you know, she always just seemed like one of you guys, you know, in a lot of ways. And well, you know, it was just I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
If I can kind of hop off of that, like that reminds me of my Catholic confirmation. I was doing it because my grandma wanted me to, and I was like dedicated to like doing it, but wasn't really connecting in the Catholic way. And Martha, you were my sponsor, as you know, and I remember being really, really nervous like, oh God, I have to do everything perfectly. What's this going to be like? And you showed up at the church, and I wish I could remember, or not the church. What was it? A church, Mom? What was it? That
It was something. It was
the big fancy church that I know
or
a lot
something like
about,
that.
like
Yeah,
confirmed. I know all the things. And I remember like Fem just standing next to me and saying something like super sassy and super inappropriate for the place. And I was immediately like, okay, I can do this. This is what's up. And my whole relationship with Martha has been really, I think honestly, it was one of the first women I connected with that, you know, as a teenager, realizing, oh my God, I can have friends that are, you know, older than me. I can have adult friends. This is really interesting. And so, I mean, starting from back when I was I think one of the first times I met Martha was the sock monkeys.
I was right, Taylor and Beth Ann doing the sock monkeys
Yeah.
for the hospital.
And like
Yeah.
riding in the car with like essentially strangers at that point, and being like a shy little kid having no idea. And within, I don't know, 5 minutes, I was just immediately like, this is a great trip. This is a good cause. We dropped them off at a place for children, or a hospital.
It was a hospital, yeah, for the pediatric ward.
It was a church, Beth Ann.
It was a church. But just all of these kind of pivotal moments in my childhood where I think everybody's really hitting on this idea that she just creates a safe space, a place where everybody can just exist and do their thing, and
accepting and open. And
yeah. And when you guys had the Fem Cave and me coming, you know, it was after college, but when I'd come home for visits and just hopping up to the Fem Cave, whether you were in there or not, Mom, and we would all just, you know, launch into some super in-depth, this is what's going on in my life, let's share everything immediately. But I suppose my favorite, most recent memory was when you two created the lotion. The simulated, you made it with essential oils and stuff, but it was replicating one of Martha's fancy lotions. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes,
And
yeah.
immediately I walk in and the two of them like take my hands and they rub one lotion on one and another lotion on the other and ask me to compare, like, which one feels better? Do they feel the same? This one costs $1,000 and this one we made. And I just looked down at my arms and I'm like, well, they both feel great. They both smell great, but I'm breaking out in hives on this one. And, I'm allergic to almonds, and it was like based with almond oil. And Mom and Mom like, oh no!
I'm her mother, and I knew that, but it didn't register.
No. And of course, like, I mean, you know, I was in my 20s, so I just dealt with it. But Mom and Martha are just dying laughing. Like, it wasn't like oh my God, my poor baby, or can we help? It was just like this full on, let's just.
We did that.
Yeah, let's just laugh about it. It was a very good time. So I really appreciate hearing everybody's sort of perspective about this, because again, Martha just creates this incredibly fun, wonderful, loving, safe place. And I think that, you know, you don't have to be in person with her to feel that or remember that.
Yeah. So I just want to say something real quick too, just about Fem and where that came from and why we call each other Fem.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know this? Do you even know Taylor? I mean, I think you do.
He coined it.
Yeah.
Well, it was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, because I used to call Taylor homie. He's hey, my homeboy. Hey, homeboy. Whatever. For whatever reason, it's just what I called him. And we had gone to Montreal, the girls and I, one time, and we were in a department store, and I looked up and I saw HOMME, Om for the men's room, and then Femme, FEMME for the ladies' room. So I'm like, oh, look, bathroom for homie, and there's one for a femme. And then from there, we just decided that, oh, that must be us then. So we've been Femme ever since. How many years ago was that? Like a million years ago.
So your nickname is based on a bathroom.
It's based on a bathroom. Yep. It's based on Taylor in a bathroom. 2 bathrooms, yes.
I mean, that's not a bad nickname to have come from a bathroom. It could be like occupied or out of service. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So anyhow, just in case anybody wondered where Femme came from, but what was that?
I think I'm going to jump in now because it's so wonderful hearing all this, and it's so relatable because like I know Martha. I know you. That's who she is. And I was talking to Peter today about the call tonight, and I was like, I don't know what I want to talk about. Like, what's the biggest kind of impact, and what's the thing that stands out? And all of this beautiful stuff about what a wonderful person she is, and how much she has, like, just that unique spirit. And I started thinking, like, we're doing this Zoom call so Beth Ann can record it, get it to Mom, so that Martha, you can see it, because we don't know how to get this to you otherwise. And I'm thinking, she's not good with technology. This is like not her thing, not her forte. I credit my career in technology to Martha.
Yes.
Because the beginning of my passion for building websites started with Green Mountain knitting bags. And so Peter and I are talking about it today, and I'm just thinking how funny it is, how many lives she's touched in so many different ways. But I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that can say that my career in technology is thanks to Martha. So
Absolutely. I didn't go for
I did the
career in
bags. I listed the
Catholicism.
bags every Thursday for, I think it was 5 or 6 years.
At least.
And I was saying that to Peter, and I was like, I don't think that you even knew me when I did that. And he's like, oh, no. That was the first year and a half of our relationship. And every Thursday I was like, oh crap, we can't do anything.
Well, and did you end up teaching her how to do the blog and how to do it all herself?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, and I have a similar bit where I can't say my career, but I was thinking about a memory from when we were all in Maine together at the camp. Jake's camp, was it? Or
Blake's, right?
Yeah.
close. And I remember we were driving in the car, and the first bit is that I had never heard Peter Frampton before, and we listened to Frampton Comes Alive. I remember being like, this rocks! Going back to my dad afterwards and being like, Dad, Martha showed me this guy. Have you ever heard of him before? I think it was like Peter Frampton. And my dad being like, first of all, of course I've heard Peter Frampton. And Dad, you've never been a big Frampton guy. So you kind of rolled your eyes at that. You're like, yeah, I know Peter Frampton. It's like that and the Doobie Brothers are the two things I brought back to you. And we're like, have you ever heard of these guys? And you're like, yeah, I heard them, and it's not my thing. But I remember we were in the car, and I forget what song was on, but Martha, you and I were singing, and you had figured out the harmony part, and were trying to teach me how to do harmony singing, and I'd never done that before either. And this stands out because like singing harmony is a beautiful thing. Like it's one of my favorite things. I do it all the time now. That's what I do as a musician in the tenor bellies, is I always am singing harmony. And I remember that feeling being so cool that I remember that specific moment, the first time I ever sang harmony with somebody, and that was with you, Martha, in the car. And I remember it was bad, but like I got a couple notes, and you were super patient and encouraged me to really go for it. And that's something I do all the time now. So it wasn't the start of my career, but certainly the beginning of something I do often, and a passion of mine, and something I do occasionally get paid for. Humble brag.
It's going to take off too. You're going to be, the national tour is coming up soon, right?
Yeah, no. All of our we had our big show that was going to be this summer, and that's all right. It'll happen again whenever we're allowed to do that again. But
it'll come. To piggyback on that piggyback, like growing up in a household, like Dan said, where like they ran and operated the restaurant and bakery, and then like some of my earliest memories are being in a high chair while my mom would like make all the baked goods or bread and like shaping like a tiny little loaf of bread that she'd like then bake, and I'd get to see it, and then seeing her with panache and making all of her pins and doing that and making that work, which was like a trial run in my mind, like for the knitting bags, like okay, I can sell things, and I like can figure out how to do this, and then like moving on to something that she was more passionate about. And like every year that I did Art Hop in Burlington, and people would come in to my studio and be like, how the heck Like, why do you do this? How did you start doing that? You make spinning tops? That's really weird. And I couldn't tell the story without talking about you, because like, you bought me my first lathe. I didn't even ask for it. You were just like, I think he would like a lathe. That seems like a thing that he would like, and you were super right. And then, like, I just saw you just create out of nothing, out of fabric and a sewing machine and passion and your mind. So there's no way that I would do what I do if I didn't see you do something similar first and have your encouragement. So thanks.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable business. I just have this quick story that I want to share. She was invited to speak at, I think it was the Vermont Arts Council that was sponsoring it, and it was at Goddard College. So we drove down, and there were 6 panelists, and the only people that I remember was your mom and Daryl Storrs, who's a jeweler from Richmond, and then Warren Kimball, who's a like an Americana painter from Vermont. He's, out of everybody, Warren was probably the most famous out of everybody that was sitting there. And she's looking around like, what am I doing here? Why did they want me here? And when all was said and done, after everybody said their piece, and everybody was very excited about the fact that Martha's business was like completely online, and how she had built it from starting in eBay. Remember that, Allison, where she listed her first bag at $19.99 on eBay, and it didn't sell, and she was like, oh, this isn't going to work. Years later, she's and it was just amazing. So everybody was, so they said afterwards, the panelists spoke, and does anybody have any questions? And I'd say 90% of the questions were geared to Martha, and she was just like, why is everybody asking me questions? It was just the most delightful thing, because she was always just so like surprised and like really so humble about it, and like everybody's like sitting at her feet. They want to like rub the hem on her skirt or something, because she was so awesome. And all the other artisans are getting a little bit like, all right, I'm here too. You can ask me a question. It's pretty funny. So yeah, she's pretty spectacular in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that was funny. That was another thing we were talking about today with Green Mountain Knitting Bags, was listing on Thursdays. And for so many years, it was like, I think we called them the sharks. We're waiting for the bags to be listed, because they'd be listed at 8 o'clock Thursday night, and there'd be like 5 to 10 bags that we put up. And I swear, within seconds, they're all sold out. So it was just
amazing,
hilarious. And so, like, from my perspective as like a 16-year-old web nerd, I'm just like, all these ladies are buying sewing bags. This is ridiculous. But like, it was just such a cool thing to see that following that she built up. And just to your point, Mom, like all the questions that she was getting, I'm sure, like, especially at that time, that was 15 plus years ago now. Like that was huge. That was new. And
shop shops are huge now. Like, that's a thing that people are doing now that works really well. And like, it's crazy how ahead of the time it all, like, the two of you really made that.
Yeah.
Fun thing to be a part of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am noticing the time here, and there's a couple things that we have to keep track of. First of all, this is going to be a really big recording that we're going to have to get uploaded. And secondly, I want to just honor everybody's time here. Are there anything, like, can you think of any maybe like last minute things? I mean, it's just it's so hard to kind of encapsulate her amazingness into just a couple of, even a couple of hours. It would take forever. But I guess one of my goals with this was to, really just let her know beyond the shadow of a doubt just how adored and loved she is. So Martha, you get that? You get that?
Oh yeah.
I haven't wanted to talk too much, because I have been going and getting to see her and say all this stuff in person, and I really wanted to hear what everyone else had to say. But I do just want to add, just because this has been in my head the whole time, that I always remember being really proud of her as a teenager. Like, I was never embarrassed for her to like meet any of my friends. And I remember I went to a 311 concert at Memorial Auditorium when I was a freshman in high school, and we brought this girl who, like, was like not a girl. Like I didn't even know why we were giving her a ride, but my mom was like, "Sure, totally." And she dropped us off at the concert, and like I smelled marijuana for the first time, and was like, "Oh my god, I'm like pretty much an adult now. This is amazing." And then she came to pick us up like on the sidewalk afterwards, and we get in the car, and she just goes, "Look, I went and got my belly button pierced." And I was like, "What? Like, this is me going to a concert. You can't go get a piercing while I'm in a concert." And then we were driving, and she had to stop for gas, and she stopped and got out. And this girl looked at me and was like, "Did your mom pick us up listening to Rage Against the Machine?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think she did." And there was, it's just like always a coolness that I loved for other people to see, and like didn't ever have to be ashamed of, you know. And also showed me like growing up doesn't mean like, or like getting older doesn't mean growing up necessarily, if that makes sense. And it was just a great kind of energy to be around as a kid, you know.
Nice.
The only other thing I would share is I think Martha and Taylor, you guys showed us Heaven, that swimming hole in Huntington.
Hanksville.
I know so, but and I guess I just like, if a memory sticks with me, it would probably be long car rides that felt like they took all day in the summer over to Heaven together, spending the day swimming there, hanging out
In
with
the
you,
Geo
Martha.
Tracker.
Yeah, in the tracker, exactly. And then
oh my god,
stopping at the 54 Flavors and getting creamies on the way home before going back up the hill. And I don't know, I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's symbolic in other ways, right? But it's just an image that'll stay with me, and thinking about you, Martha, and kind of all of the beauty and love and time we got to spend together. So just want that, like, that'll be in my head.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Andrew, for the tears. Thanks.
I've been thinking, like now that I have a little one that I run after who is just attracted to danger, it's like, oh, the fan or a corner, anything that could hurt him. That's the thing that he's attracted to. Terrifying. How incredible it was that she, like, how supportive she was, but how she let us do these things that could hurt us, and then was there on the other side, like rollerblading, or like I used to go for like runs at midnight, or like, you know, whatever, like crazy stuff looking back. But
biking across the country.
Yeah, biking across the country. She wanted to I wouldn't let her, which I'd feel bad about looking back, because I would want to do the same thing, but she wanted to have an app where she could know where I was at all times. And I was like, nah, I need to go have freedom. But like I really understand that a lot more now. So just the intensity of her love, but then giving us the freedom, but then being there on the other side if we got knocked down, trying something new. Was like a really really incredible thing to have. So thank you.
Thank you, Fem.
We love you, Fem.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah, I love you, Martha.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah.
Great smile.
Now.
Great smile. Love you.
Bye.
Love you.
Oh, now the awkward moment where I figure out how Zoom
Oh, wait,
works.
hang on. I'm stopping there.
Oh.